The engineer of record signed the release. Tori said, "Aihara Mizuki. She's sitting right there." 40 people turned around. I was in the third row of the hearing room with my hands flat on my knees. And I did not move them, because my hands were the only part of me I could still give an instruction to. Investigator Nakagawa looked up from his notebook. "Aihara-san, is that correct?" "I signed a release," I said. "Not that one. There is only one release in the file. Then the file is short a page." Tori smiled at the room the way you smile at a child who has said something embarrassing at a funeral. He was 48, my department head, and he had taught me how to read a load path when I was 24. "Aihara-san has been under a great deal of stress," he said. "That's understandable. 11 people were hurt." 12, I said. He stopped. 12 people were hurt. Sakia Nanami is the 12th. She was discharged and readmitted. So the hospital opened a second record. If the count in your report is 11, then your report is already wrong on the easiest number in it. Nakagawa wrote something down. It was a small motion, and Tori watched it the whole way. "We'll correct the figure," Nakagawa said. "Aihara-san, you'll have an opportunity to submit a statement." "I'd like to submit a document instead." "What document?" Fujimoto stood before I could answer. "Company counsel. 40. Black suit. And she had been 3 seats from me all morning without once looking at my face." "Investigator. Kurata Construction has provided the complete design file. Any additional material from an individual employee would need to go through counsel to preserve." "To preserve what?" I said. The room went quiet. "To preserve the integrity of the submission," Fujimoto said. "The submission is missing a page. I'm offering you the page." "Through counsel." "You're counsel for the company. I'm asking whether the company would like the page." Fujimoto sat down. She did not answer, and the not answering sat in the middle of that room where everybody could see it. And Nakagawa wrote something down again. "The Sakuragi Terrace pedestrian deck came down on a Saturday at 2:40 in the afternoon, which is the worst possible hour. Because Saturday at 2:40 is when a shopping complex is full of people who are not in a hurry. It did not fall all the way. A 9-meter section of walkway between the atrium and the cinema block dropped about 80 centimeters on the east side and stopped, hanging, because the deck plate deformed instead of shearing. 80 centimeters is a step you would take without looking. 80 centimeters, when you are standing on it, is the floor of the world coming out from under you. I got there at 4:15. Anzai was outside the cordon with his helmet in his hand, and Anzai never took his helmet off on a sight, so I knew before he opened his mouth. "Aihara-san, how many?" 11 confirmed. 2 serious." He rubbed his face. "There's a girl, student. She went down between the deck and the rail. Her arm..." He stopped and looked at the helmet. "Anzai-san?" "I told Tori-san," he said. "In March. I told him the anchors coming off the truck weren't what the drawing called for. He said the substitution was approved." "Approved by who?" "He said it was approved." "That's not the same sentence." Anzai looked at me. He was 55 and had been building things since before I could read a drawing. And he looked at me the way a man looks at someone he is about to hand something heavy to. "No," he said. "It isn't." Behind him the sight lights came on, all at once, the way they do. The deck hung there in the white of them with its east edge low, like a mouth that had not finished a word. Sakia Nanami was 22, a second year at a design school in Nakano. And when I came into her room on Tuesday, she was doing something with her left hand that I did not understand until I got closer. She was learning to hold a pen. "You're from the company," she said. "Yes. They already sent someone. He brought melon." "I know, I saw him leave." She put the pen down. Her right arm was in a fixator. 4 pins. The kind you get when the bone does not break so much as fold. "So what do you bring?" "Nothing," I said. "I came to ask you one question, and then I'm going to leave, because you shouldn't have to be polite to me on top of everything else." Something in her face moved. "Okay. When it dropped, did it go all at once? Or did it go and stop, and then go again?" She stared at me. "Nobody asked me that," she said. "I'm asking..." It went. Then it stopped, and everybody screamed. And then about 2 seconds later, it went again. She moved her good hand down, and down again. 2 small drops. And that's when I fell through. I closed my eyes for a moment. Is that bad? She said. It sounded like a bad question. It's a very good question, I said. 1 drop is a deck failing. 2 drops is bolts pulling out 1 row at a time. Bolts don't do that if they're the right bolts. So it was the bolts. I think it was the bolts. She was quiet. Then, the man with the melon told me it was a design error. Did he say whose? He said the engineer had signed off on it. Right, I said. Was that you? I could have said no. She was 22 with 4 pins in her arm, and there was a version of the next 30 seconds where I explained about the hold notice and the pressure and the withdrawal. And she would have understood. And I would have walked out of that room lighter than I came in. I signed a notice to stop the work. I said. Then I withdrew it. 4 days later, they installed the anchors. So it wasn't my design that failed you. It was my signature coming off the piece of paper that would have stopped it. Nanami looked at me for a long moment. Thank you for saying it straight, she said. Everybody else has been so careful. Careful is a word that gets used a great deal in a company after something falls down. We must be careful with the language in the interim statement. We should be careful about speculating ahead of the investigation. Aihara-san, I'd be careful who you talk to. That last one was Tori. On Wednesday. In the door of the structural office with a coffee, he did not drink. You went to the hospital, he said. Yes. Why? Because a 22-year-old lost her drawing hand on a deck with my name near it. And I wanted to look at her. He came in and shut the door, which he had not done in 7 years. Mizuki. First name. Also a first. I need you to understand the position. The investigation will find a cause. If the cause is the anchor substitution, the question becomes who authorized it. And that question does not have a good answer for anyone in this building. If the cause is a design assumption, the question becomes whether the assumption was reasonable at the time. Reasonable is survivable. Do you understand the difference? You're asking me to say I got the pull-out calculation wrong. I'm asking you to consider that you might have... I didn't... You can't know that. I can. Actually, that's the entire job. I turned my chair to face him. I know what the anchors were specified at, because I specified them. Grade 10.9. I know what the deck weighs, because I calculated it. I know what pull-out capacity a 10.9 anchor has in that substrate, because it is in a table that has not changed since 1994. And if the anchors on site were 10.9, we have no problem. They weren't? You don't know that. Anzai-san told you they weren't. In March? He told me he told you. Tori took the lid off his coffee, put it back on, and set the cup down on my desk. Anzai is a site foreman with a grievance about the schedule. He said, he has been complaining since the piling. So it's a coincidence that the thing he complained about is the thing that failed. Mizuki. He leaned on the desk. I am trying to keep you employed. You're trying to keep me quiet. And you have decided those are the same sentence because it is more comfortable for you if they are. He straightened. The friendliness came off his face in one piece, like a lid. Withdraw the request for the material certificates, he said. It's already logged with Nakagawa. Withdraw it today. And this stays a design discussion. And if I don't? Then it becomes a procurement discussion. Procurement reports to the chairman. And I don't think you understand how quickly a company can decide that one engineer was acting outside her authority. I looked at the coffee cup he had left on my desk. You did this in March, too, I said. Did what? Came into a room, closed a door, and explained what would happen to me. And I withdrew the hold notice. And 4 days later, they put the wrong bolts in a deck. And on Saturday, a girl in Nakano stopped being able to hold a pen. I picked up the cup and held it out to him. You'll have to find someone else this time. Kurata Hideo sent for me on Thursday morning. 63 chairman, 4,000 employees. And I had been in the same room as him twice in 7 years and never once been spoken to. He did not sit behind the desk. He sat in one of 2 chairs by the window and gestured at the other, which is a thing powerful men do when they want you to feel that a conversation is not what it is. Aihara-san, thank you for coming up. Chairman, I've read your file. 7 years. 2 commendations. The Ebisu retrofit was yours. The calculation was mine. The scheme was and for about 4 seconds I liked him, which I have thought about a lot since. I'm going to be direct with you, because I think you'd prefer it. He said, this company will survive the Sakuragi deck. It will not survive a finding that it knowingly installed the wrong material. Those are 2 different investigations. And at the moment, we are 1 document away from the second one. The certificates. The certificates. He turned his cup a quarter turn on the saucer. Teresa tells me you've requested them. I have. Withdraw the request. And there is a position for you as principal engineer on the Chiba program. It is a promotion. It is not a bribe. And I would ask you not to characterize it as one. It is what happens to an engineer who has demonstrated that she can be trusted with a difficult year. And if I don't withdraw it, then you have made yourself the author of whatever happens next. And people who make themselves the author of a corporate collapse are not, generally, employed afterwards. Not because anyone punishes them, because nobody calls. I looked out of his window at the east side of the city, which had about 900 of our decks in it. Chairman, I said, can I ask you one question and then I'll go? Yes. When you say the company would not survive a finding that it knowingly installed the wrong material, do you mean the finding? Or do you mean the installing? He did not answer that. He looked at me, and the 4 seconds where I liked him closed like a door. And he said, you may go. I got as far as the lift before I understood what the answer had been. The material certificates were in the procurement archive on the 4th floor, in a system I did not have access to, held by a department that had been told not to help me. Nomura Sawako was 26, 2 years out of Waseda, and she counted things out loud when she was nervous, which is either a liability or the most useful trait an engineer can have. Depending on the day, she found me in the stairwell on Thursday afternoon. Aihara-san, can I ask something stupid? Yes. The delivery for the anchors. It came in 6 boxes. Okay. The certificate in the design file covers 1 lot. 1 lot is 4 boxes. She held up her tablet. So either 2 boxes came from somewhere else, or somebody wrote 4 when they meant 6. I've been staring at it since Tuesday and I can't make it be a typo. I took the tablet. She had pulled the goods inward log. Not the certificate, the log. The boring one. The one nobody reads. Because it is a list of what arrived at a gate on a Tuesday morning in March. 6 boxes, 2 delivery notes, 2 different suppliers. Sawako-san, I said, who else has seen this? Nobody. I'm not supposed to be in procurement's folder. I only got in because the site QA share still has the old permissions from the piling phase and nobody closed them. She went slightly gray. Am I in trouble? Do you want the honest answer? Oh, yes. Yes. Not for the reason you think. I gave the tablet back. You're in trouble because in about 4 days somebody will realize that folder is open, and they will close it, and everything in it will become unavailable, and that word will do a lot of work for a lot of people. So we are going to export it today, and you are going to send it to Nakagawa yourself, with your name on it, not mine. Why my name? Because if it comes from me, it's an accusation from the engineer everyone has been told is unstable. If it comes from you, it's a junior staff member reporting an anomaly through the proper channel. There is no version of the story where that's the crime. Sawako looked at the tablet, then at me, and I watched a 26-year-old do arithmetic I did not do at 26. They'll know it was me, she said. Yes. Okay. She breathed in. 1 second. And she stood in that stairwell and counted, under her breath, all the way to 10. Then she said, okay, again, and sent it. Nakagawa called me in on Monday. Not the hearing room, a small office with a table, 3 chairs, and a window that looked at another window. Aihara-san, I'm going to show you a document. Tell me what it is. He slid a page across. It's a mill certificate. I said, read the grade column. I read the grade column. Then I read it again. Because the first time, my eyes did the thing eyes do when they have been looking for something for 11 days, and the something is finally there. There are 2 grades on it, I said. Yes. Rows 1 through 4 are 10.9, rows 5 and 6 are 8.8. Yes. These are not the same bolt. 8.8 is a different steel, about 70% of the tensile. Is 70% enough? For a handrail? Yes. For a moment, connection carrying a 9-meter span with dynamic load from foot traffic. I stopped. No. And the failure mode is wrong as well. A 10.9 that's overloaded tends to go all at once. An 8.8 in that condition yields first. It stretches. It lets go one row at a time. I put the page down. It dropped twice. I said, Sakia Nanami told me it dropped, stopped, and dropped again. That is rows 5 and 6 going first, and then rows 1 through 4 taking the redistributed load and going second. That is this page. That is exactly this page. Nakagawa did not write anything. He was watching me. Where did this document come from? Aihara-san? I don't know. It wasn't in the design file. It was in the procurement archive. A junior engineer named Nomura sent it to me on Thursday, with a note saying the box count didn't reconcile. He turned the page around and squared it to the table edge. The version in the design file is the same certificate with rows 5 and 6 removed and the total quantity adjusted. Same mill, same date. 4 rows instead of 6. I sat back. Somebody cut 2 rows off a certificate. I said, somebody cut 2 rows off a certificate. He finally wrote something. Now, the hold notice you mentioned in the hearing. I have it. The original, the withdrawal, and the 3 emails between them. I've had them since March. They are not in the file because I withdrew the notice, and a withdrawn notice does not go in the file. That is not a cover-up. That is just how the system works. I paused. Which is why I said the file was short a page instead of saying somebody removed it. I wanted to be accurate.
Nakagawa looked at me a second longer than he needed to.
Most people in your position, he said, would have said removed. Most people in my position get called unstable in a room with 40 people in it. I said, I've decided to be boring instead. Fujimoto caught me by the lifts afterwards. She had a folder against her chest and she was, for the first time in 11 days, looking directly at my face. You've spoken to the investigator alone, she said, twice. You understand that the company's counsel should be present when an employee... Fujimoto-san, are you my lawyer? She stopped. I represent the company, she said. Then when you tell me it would be better if you were in the room, you're telling me it would be better for the company. Which might be true, but you've said it 4 times now in a way that sounds like advice. And I want us both to be clear that it isn't. She stood very still. She was 40, and good at her job. And I do not think anyone in that building had said the plain version to her in a long time. There is a variation order, she said. I did not move. I'm not going to say anything else, she said. I'm going to say that there is a variation order, and that it was produced this morning under the disclosure requirement, and that I have discharged my obligation by producing it. That is the whole of what I am telling you. Why are you telling me at all? Fujimoto adjusted the folder against her chest. Because I have a daughter who is 22, she said, and I read Sakia Nanami's statement on Sunday. And I would like to be able to say that I produced the document without being asked twice. Then she got in the lift and did not hold it. They reconvened on the 11th. Same room, same 40 people. And this time, the projector was on. Nakagawa did not make a speech. He is not that kind of man, he said. Before we take further testimony, the committee will enter 5 documents into the record. And then he entered them one at a time. And the room learned what had happened to it in the order the documents arrived. The first was the goods inward log. 6 boxes, 2 delivery notes, 2 suppliers. Sawako was in the 4th row with her hands folded. Somebody 2 seats down moved away by about 10 centimeters, and I saw her notice it, and I saw her decide not to care. The second was the mill certificate, the real one, 6 rows. It came up on the screen 4 meters wide, and the grade column was legible from the back of the room, and I watched 40 people read the numbers. 10.9, 10.9, 10.9, 10.9, 8.8, 8.8,
Somebody said, out loud. That's not the same bolt. No, Nakagawa said. It isn't. The document in the design file has 4 rows.
The third was my hold notice, dated the 9th of March, signed, the reason field. In my handwriting, anchors delivered do not match specified grade, confirm before installation. The 4th was the withdrawal, dated the 13th of March, also signed by me. Aihara-san, Nakagawa said. Why did you withdraw it? Tori was in the front row. I could see the back of his head. Because Tori-san came to my office on the 12th, closed the door, and told me the substitution had been approved above his level, that the program could not absorb a stop, and that continuing to hold the work would be understood as a refusal to accept a commercial decision. I paused. And because I was 30, and I wanted to still have a job at 31. Did you ask who had approved it? Yes. What were you told? That it was approved? By name?
No, and I didn't push. That part is mine. I'm not going to stand here and pretend the withdrawal was somebody else's hand. It was my signature. I put it there.
The room was very quiet. The committee has one further document, Nakagawa said. Provided this morning by Kurata Construction's counsel under the disclosure order. Fujimoto stood halfway. Investigator. That material was provided on a compliance basis, and you would ask that the committee not display a document you were ordered to produce, Nakagawa said. Without heat, the way you would read a train timetable. Noted. Display it. She sat down. She did not look unhappy. It was a variation order. 1 page. Substitution of anchor grade. Sakuragi Terrace East Deck. A cost saving noted in the margin in yen. And at the bottom, 2 boxes. Requested Tori Kenji. Approved Kurata Hideo. Dated the 6th of March. 3 days before I wrote the hold notice, nobody shouted. Nobody stood and pointed. The chairman of a construction group with 4,000 employees sat in the second row and looked at a projector screen with his own signature on it, 4 meters wide, and did not move at all. And that stillness was the loudest thing in the building. Tori turned around and looked at me. Not with hatred. That would have been easier for both of us. He looked at me the way you look at a door you had always thought was a wall. Nakagawa read from his notes. The committee's preliminary determination was that the cause of the Sakuragi Terrace failure was the installation of grade 8.8 anchors in a connection designed for grade 10.9, that the substitution was authorized by variation order dated the 6th of March, that a hold notice raising the discrepancy was issued on the 9th and withdrawn on the 13th following managerial pressure, and that the certificate in the design file had been altered to remove 2 rows. Then the consequences, one at a time. In the flat voice of a man reading a list. Kurata Construction's structural design certification, suspended. Pending audit of every live project. Sakuragi Terrace, closed. Full anchor replacement across 3 decks. Tori Kenji, referred to the Prefectural Licensing Board, and separately to the prosecutor. For the alteration of the certificate, Kurata Hideo, referred to the prosecutor, removed from all project approval authority by the board within the hour, which I know because Fujimoto's phone buzzed twice during the reading, and the second time she stopped looking at it. Anzai Tetsuo. Statement accepted in full. No finding against. Nomura Sawako. Named in the record as the source of the goods inward reconciliation. With a note from the committee that the disclosure was made through appropriate channels. Aihara Mizuki. No finding of design deficiency. Referred to the licensing board for the withdrawal of a safety notice under pressure. A mandatory referral, Nakagawa said. In any case where a safety notice is withdrawn and a failure follows. He said it without softening it. And I was glad. Because it was mine. A page came off a file because I let it come off. And a girl in Nakano cannot hold a pen. Tori caught me outside. Fujimoto was already gone. She had stopped being his lawyer somewhere between the variation order appearing and the second phone buzz. And he had not worked that out yet. You could have come to me, he said. I did come to you. In March. You closed the door. I meant now, before the certificate. We could have managed it. Managed it how? He did not have the sentence ready. That was the thing about Tori. He had been managing for so long that he had stopped keeping the actual reasons anywhere he could reach quickly. Kurata signed it. He said, You saw. He signed it. I requested it. But I know. So why is it me there? Because you're the one who came into my office. I said, He signed a piece of paper in a room I have never been in. You closed a door and told a 30-year-old what would happen to her career. Those are different crimes. The second one is yours, and it's the one that took the page off the file. He stood there. I taught you load paths, he said. You did. You were good at it. You told me a structure only fails where the load actually goes. Not where the drawing says it goes. I picked up my bag. The load went through your office, Tori-san. It didn't go through mine. That's why the debt came down. I went back to the hospital on Friday. Because I had said I would. And because a person who only turns up when she has something to confess is not turning up at all. Nanami had a different pen. Fatter barrel. Foam grip. The kind they give you in occupational therapy. It's ugly, she said. It's a good pen. It's an ugly good pen. She turned it over in her left hand. My teacher says left is fine. Says two of the people she admires most draw left. I think she's being kind. But I've decided to let her. That seems reasonable. I saw the news. She looked up. They said the Bolt certificate had 2 grades on it. It did. And you found it?
No, I said. A 26-year-old called Nomura Sawako found it, because she counted the boxes and got 6 when the paper said 4. And then she put her own name on the email. I'd like that to be the version you remember, because it's the true one. And because in about 2 years, somebody is going to tell her she's difficult, and it will be useful if she has already been in a story where counting the boxes was the right thing to do.
Nanami wrote something on the pad in her lap. It took her a while. The letters came out large and crooked, and she did not apologize for them. Nomura Sawako, she read back, counted the boxes.
That's it. What happens to you?
Licensing board in November. I withdrew a safety notice and a debt came down. That gets looked at. It should. But you're the one who... I'm the one who took my name off the piece of paper that would have stopped it. I said, both things are true. They're going to be true at the same time for the rest of my life. And I've stopped needing one of them to cancel the other. She looked at me. Okay, she said. Come back after November. All right. I mean it. Not to check on me. Just come back. The licensing board took 40 minutes. They read the sequence. The 6th, the 9th, the 12th, the 13th. They asked me one question that mattered, which was whether. On the 12th, I had believed the substitution was safe. No, I said. Then why did you withdraw the notice? Because I believed I would lose my position. And I decided that was the more important risk. That was the wrong order. I had the calculation. And the certificate discrepancy. And a foreman telling me the same thing. And I traded all of it for a job I nearly lost anyway. They suspended my certification for 6 months and required a supervised return. 6 months is a long time not to be an engineer. I spent it checking calculations for a firm in Chiba that does school seismic retrofits. And every drawing that crossed my desk, I checked against the delivered material and not against the specification. It is a slower way to work. It is now the only way I know how. Sawako still works at Kurata. When the audit came through, the company needed exactly one person who could stand in front of the auditors and say, I found it and I reported it. And it turns out that being that person is the most secure job in a building that has just been caught. She sends me photographs of goods inward logs sometimes. No message attached. Just the box count circled. Anzai retired in the spring. He sent a card, it said, in handwriting that had clearly cost him something. You asked the right question in the car park. I should have asked it in March. It is in the drawer with the hold notice. Nanami's exhibition was in October, above a bookshop in Nakano. 19 pieces, all ink, all left-handed. I bought the small one near the door. It is a drawing of a staircase that does not reach anything. Kurata Hideo was charged in February, Tori in March, a year to the month after he closed the door of my office. I don't know what happens to them. That is not my file. What I know is this. On the 6th of March, a man signed a page that saved a company 410,000 yen. On the 9th, I wrote a page that would have cost them a week. On the 12th, another man closed a door. On the 13th, I took my page back. 4 days, 410,000 yen, 12 people. Come back after November, she said. So I did.